Shalom and welcome to another edition of Parsha Talk. I'm Rabbi Elliot Malamed in Highland Park, New Jersey, at the Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation on Shemet. Joining me are my good friends Rabbi Barry Chesler, Solomon Sheikh, the Day School of Long Island, Rabbi Jeremy Kalmanovsky, back from Israel, on Sheikh Chesed, New York City. We are recording this on day 440 of the war, praying for the hostages, hoping that there's talk of a deal, talk of some kind of release. But we all know, to be quite sober with regard to these things, praying that they'll be freed, go back to their homes. Rabbi Kalmanovsky, you were in Israel just last week at the Rabbinical Assembly Convention. If you
I
have
was.
something, tell us.
I was. It was very. I love being in Israel. Every opportunity I get, and was very fortunate to be able to walk in the Holy Land and speak the Holy Tongue. Get to daven with my 100 of my our fellow colleagues. We davened at the so-called conservative kotel. We talked about there's a rabbi, I forgot her name, but she's a South American, and her job is running the conservative kotel, or the so-called Ezrat Yisrael, the egalitarian kotel, and helping people have b'nai mitzvah. All the people, if you want to have a bar bat mitzvah, um, no charge. She helps you. She helps you arrange it and come and daven. And we got to do that. My only disappointment about that, I didn't I don't think this is the way it always is. It's certainly not the way I remember it. We couldn't get up and actually touch the wall from that spot, which I
Yeah,
liked.
there's just a
Uh,
platform right there, and
yeah,
you get to stand
yeah.
on the
I
platform.
mean, you can see where the platform would run, but it's closed off. I think for
Sure,
some
sure.
sort of technical maintenance issue or something like that. But it's a hard time to be in Israel. Of course, hard time to be an Israeli and a lover of Israel. 440 days. Who could possibly have imagined? And we know that there's approximately 100 people and their remains. We don't know how many people are alive, but I was speaking to a friend of mine today from Israel who said that they do have occasional, just they're still getting some proof of life from some of the hostages. So there are people, and pikuach nefesh. I just demands that we hope that Israel, even their very unreliable adversaries, which it's not like I trust Hamas to make good on all their promises, but I would hope that they can reach a deal to bring people home as soon as possible. One thing that I want to mention is that one of the things that I did at this on this trip was at Har Herzl and see some of the graves. We walked in an area where there are fresh graves from the soldiers, and I saw what was at that point, or 1 week ago today, or 1 week ago yesterday, I guess. The most recent grave at that point was from a young soldier named Yonah Brief, and Yonah's grandfather was a conservative rabbi named Neil Brief, the late Neil Brief of Skokie, Illinois.
Hmm.
And it was touching to know that this is always the case in Israel. It's there's no strangers. Everybody is connected and everybody is related and everybody part of a tight knit society. So just
Do you
it's
know
a sad
what
thing.
you said about the hostages? Of course, there's one little line in the parsha, and we'll get to it, um, where Joseph says, "Ki gunov gunavti me'eretz I was stolen, I was stolen." Our parsha Vayeshev, I was stolen from the land of the Hebrews. When he's in the dungeon in Egypt with the chief butler and the baker, and he wants that to be remembered to Ki gunov gunavti me'eretz, I was stolen. And that word of being stolen, the hostages are stolen. Um, we don't kidnapped. The word kidnap doesn't really convey, um, at least in my imagination, this. It's to be grabbed and spirited off, to be stolen, is what we're talking about, and of course being held prisoner against your will for all of these days, these months, 440. So we're thinking about them. We start now thinking about Parshat Vayeshev. Vayeshev, I want to say at the outset, well, I have a strong affinity to this parsha. This year is my 50th anniversary of this bar mitzvah, my bar mitzvah parsha doing I'll read it in shul and make a little kiddush. So very, very excited about this milestone. I'm 63 years old. It was 50 years ago that I had this parsha, and to this day, I think it's the greatest parsha of the most amazing of the amazing parshas.
This is not comparable to the estimable milestone that you are talking about. This is not 50, but 15 years of my daughter Hadassah's bat mitzvah on this
There you
parsha.
go. Okay, so you know what? We've said this before. These, having something in your bloodstream, a parsha, I think changes. It gives you something to relate to. Uh, I want to say at the outset, this is such a remarkably beautifully told story. At each, I mean, I read every verse, and every verse raises all sorts of questions. We could even start from the beginning, which is, let's start with V'Yisrael ahav et Yosef mikol banav kivenz kunim hulo v'asa lo ketone pasim. And Israel loved Joseph from all of his sons. Kivenz kunim hulo, because he was the son of his old age. V'asa lo ketone pasim, and he made him a coat of many colors. We translate that as a coat of many colors, ornamented tunic, and you want to stop almost at V'Yisrael ahavet Yosef. You know, I like translating the word ahav not only as love but as loyalty, and there is a certain sense of loyalty. If you read the story in its place, so it seems that the plausible case is that Rachel has already died. Benjamin is in existence. Benjamin is a young child. Joseph is the older of the two brothers. That's the way we normally read it. But is it possible that maybe this is slightly out of sequence? That Kivenz Kunim Lo, maybe he's the youngest child, and Benjamin is not yet born. And there's a case to be made that Joseph, that all of the things that happened last week's parsha, the death of Rachel, happened subsequent to Joseph's abduction and his purported killing by the wild animal. My point is that we're entering the family, this large family, a family of four different groupings of children, and of course there's rivalry there. And you think what was Yaakov thinking? What was he thinking? In doing this? And is he making a fatal mistake, or is he just following a pattern of his parents or grandparents, or is there something? Is there a way to defend him here? Is there something that you would say in his defense for this?
Yes, I would say something in his defense, as since he is my namesake, I feel an obligation,
Okay,
which I can share with Jeremy as well. But it raises a question: how old is Jacob when Joseph is born?
in his 90s, yes,
So Jacob was also a kind of Ben Zekunim. His father was 60,
sure.
and I think that he loved Joseph because he questioned his father's love for him.
So,
That this
so
is
let,
a
we're,
way of finding a sense of atonement or reparation for his early childhood experience. And I appreciate what you said about perhaps this being out of sequence, but the reason why Benjamin could not be described as a Ben Zekunim, even though he's younger, is that he really was the Ben Oni, the son of Jacob's misfortune, not the son of his old age, because the price of Benjamin was losing Rachel.
okay.
And so I think it has a different valence
Well,
than than the
I
birth of Joseph.
my only kind of quibble with that is that it's Rachel that names Benjamin Ben Oni, and it's Jacob that changes the name to Benjamin. So
Right.
so
But I
it's her
think yeah,
suffering, not his suffering.
but I think it fits him too. That's the
Got it.
point. The point is that it's even though Rachel gives the name, it describes Jacob very well. And
So
he couldn't accept it, so he changes his name.
well, go back to what you said about Jacob and his father Isaac. Isaac is 60 years old when Jacob is born. Jacob and Esau are born. Um, 60 is, I mean, it's not unusual. People are parents at the age of 60, even for the first time. But it's slightly out of the norm. Um, And would he be, and you're saying he is feeling some kind of remorse at when he was roughly 16, at the time that he purloined the birthright from Esav. Is that what you're saying? Or
Well, that he, I think, could question his father's love for him
uh-huh.
because his father favored Esau,
Okay, that makes it clear. Yes, yes.
and he was not going to make that mistake.
Well, what about his loyalty to Rachel, and what about his feelings to Rachel? And does he have feelings to Rachel, for Rachel? Uh, and if this is after her death, is he still, we traditionally kind of interpret this as he is maintaining her memory by favoring him. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Or maybe he looks like her, or maybe he acts
Well,
like.
the that's the part of the Eila Toldot Yaakov Yosef.
Yes.
There's supposed to be a parallel in there. This is the history of Jacob. Joseph was 17 because they were so aligned. They looked alike. They seemed alike. By the way, I just flipping here through some of the commentators, and Ibn Ezra points out, seemingly disturbed by the fact that uh, that he's called, Ben Zkunim, when there is in fact a younger brother. Ibn Ezra points out that when the brothers are in Egypt and Joseph is yanking their chains, and they say to him, "No, no, we told you that there is Yeled Zikunim,
Yeah.
Katan. There is Benjamin is later on referred to by the brothers as Yeled Zikunim." So at least in one part in the narrative, that phrase will recur. I think in previous years we've talked about this theory that Elliot just floated,
Yeah,
that
it's yours, right?
that Joseph has never met Benjamin.
Uh-huh.
That story is told out of order, and I suppose it is possible. But I think the story part, and with this, I I don't know if it's being in defense of Jacob or whatever, because clearly the havoc that he wreaks in his family by his preferences, are terrible, and the havoc that in the emotional lives of the other children, they can't even speak to their brother peaceably because he's
Yeah.
he's first of all so charismatic and talented. He's ish matzliach. Whatever he touches turns to gold. He can be thrown in the dungeon and he's gonna, everything's coming up roses. Um,
I just
but
want to stop you there, Jeremy. You're referring to verse 4, "Velo yachlu dabro lishalom." And you're translating that they couldn't speak peaceably to him. And I was puzzled about that phrase also, and trying to imagine what that means. How? I mean, can we just drill into that for a little bit? What does it mean that they don't speak peaceably to him? Does it mean they're just all yell? Is it they're always yelling at him? Is it they're always fighting? Is there all,
good morning, guys. Arr.
yeah.
Did you sleep well? Arr.
Oh yeah,
You know,
the bro.
Joseph, I think, comes off as being a great antagonist. He does things, I think we would say in modern Hebrew, lahachis, to
Yeah,
anger his brothers.
yeah.
Yet,
But just to go back one little bit, but to Jacob's feelings, the long period of Rachel's infertility. We don't hear that with Benjamin. She had another long stretch of infertility. But we know that when Leah was incredibly fertile, the two handmaids each have two kids in quick succession, no problem. Leah has six sons and a daughter, no problem. And that long, drawn out time waiting for Rachel. Rachel is miserable. She says she wants to die. And so I think that the Torah has built up, the narrative has built up a kind of suspense and tension that is released when Joseph is born. So he's Ben Zekunim, and that refers partly to Jacob's old age, but I think it refers also to that long, frustrating time when they couldn't have that kid. And so his relationship with Rachel is loving, is passionate, but really frustrated.
So it kind of makes sense that at this point he would be an only child to Rachel, and that he would be doted on. He would be spoiled by his father
It
because
was
of
doted on to Dotan. It's a nice
Dotan.
connection.
Oh, that's why he went to Dotan.
Okay, okay, we'll get there. Okay, so let's go to, Vayisna'u Oto. They hate him. They hate him. Their father loves Joseph. The brothers hate him. And then Vayachalom Yosef Chalom. He dreams. Vayosifu Od Snoto. They continue. They add to their hate of him. And of course, it's not lost on us that this is a pun on Yosef, Yosifu. And he's very, very excited about telling the dream. The first dream, Almim alumim b'toch hasadeh, we are gathering our sheaves in the field. My sheaf stood up, and yours all encircled mine. Vatishtachavena lalmati, and your sheaves bow down to my sheaf. And then it says, "Vayomru lo echav hamalachtim lo chalein." Are you going to reign over us? Imasholtim shol banu, and domineer over us. Vayosifu od oto. They hated him even more. Al chalamotav al dvarav, on his dreams and on the things that he says. And I have to just point here. I love this comment that the Ramban made. It's not only the dreams that they hate, but it's the telling of the dreams. And you know, I love to. In a previous life, I was very fond of storytelling. Don't do very much these days, but of course, one can be very extravagant in the telling of a story, and um, and I could see how it annoys people. I could see how storytelling, when it's done, with indulgence to draw attention to you as opposed to the story. In storytelling, the story is always supposed to be the main thing, but sometimes, it's like a musician comes to and you want to be involved in the music, but you're more involved in the musician. And so
Yeah,
it's
this one is
narcissism, basically.
this is a huge narcissism because this is the great combination of if we could think about it in a rock star or a superstar athlete, they are more talented, they are more charismatic, it is all coming up roses for them, and then they say to their jealous siblings, my gosh, I had the most incredible veridical dream sent to me from heaven. It's that everyone bows down to me. Isn't that funny, guys? Like, no, it's not funny at all. We're tired of you and everything bowing down to you. And I had this other dream, and the sun and the moon and the stars all bowed down to me. It was like amazing. Shut up, you little rat.
Right. So it's I want to make it into Joseph as an artist, as the storyteller and the dreamer, of course, but it's just more basic than that. It's just annoying. It's just annoying for his
It's
narcissism.
the lack. It is either. I mean, one of two things is true: complete lack of self-awareness, and he's just so clueless. But I'm going to go with the other one, which is that he's totally self-aware and he knows exactly what he's doing, and he's just yanking their chains in the most, as he will again, by the way, when he has power over them. He will manipulate them and just not be nice. Now, of course, this is not to say that Joseph is not the providential character. He is. He is the rare talent that can foretell what is going to happen and what needs to happen politically and socially and governmentally to take advantage of the situation. He everybody, I mean, his brothers hate him, but seemingly everybody else loves him. Even in prison, everybody loves him. And he's a special talent. Like who plays him who plays him in the movie, right? Like you know, I don't know. All
Uh,
the stars are too young now.
Donny
I wouldn't
Osmond,
recognize Timothy Chalamet if he was sitting next to me, but Brad Pitt is Matt Damon is playing this guy.
Donny Osmond was playing him, I think. No,
Well,
okay.
there you
So
go.
so let me ask you this question then. Do you have any sympathy for him? I mean, if you want to be one of the brothers, and who are you in the story kind of thing, which is I'm annoyed by him, and yet On the other hand, I want to identify with him. I want to have tremendous sympathy for him because he he's in a place, and you're saying, and I think the case is, and we've talked about this, that he is self-aware, he is aware of some prodigious talent. He's getting a message, and by getting a message, he's now doubly singled out. His father has singled him out with love. His father singled him out with a garment, and now he's being singled out with messages in a dream that can only be identified, even though it's very secular here, but we know dreams are the ways that God communicates. So he's getting, he's getting tapped, he's getting chosen
Well,
here.
we could imagine Joseph actually being bullied. He's the youngest kid, or the youngest kid who's moving. Even if Benjamin is around, perhaps he's still quite young. And he wants to be one of the boys, and they don't want him. And
Right.
so he has to use what his strengths are. And
So,
his strengths are verbal.
as it,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
so that, what we don't, we get the story really from the brother's point of view. And it's interesting that when he tells what the second dream, his father gets upset.
Yeah.
His
And it
father gets
says Vayakanu Otam that they're, which the JPS translation is they were wrought up with him, but I think we associate it with a kind of jealousy and zealousness. So
Yeah.
they're jealous of him because they understand he is a bearer of the divine message and
Yeah.
they don't like the message. But his father, Shamar Tadavar, he takes note of it.
Yeah. Interesting.
And where Joseph is going to be redeemed is in chapter 39, because in a quick read, it seems that God is mentioned in almost every verse that Joseph is mentioned in. And we know that God doesn't talk directly to Joseph. He does allow him to interpret dreams, and Joseph understands what God wants, but the presence of God is quite manifest in the beginning of chapter 39. And when he is impressing the people that he's with, that's because God is with him.
So let's talk.
when we get shortly thereafter when he comes up, there's a great pasuk when Jacob sends him to chase the brothers down in Shechem. Shechem's always a bad place. Bad stuff happens in Shechem, true to this very day. And he meets the guy in the fields, and the guy says, "What are you looking for?" Et achai anochi mevakesh. I'm looking for my brothers, and that's really just a lovely phrase because he does, I think, want to have. He doesn't want to be such a jerk, maybe, and he doesn't want to be so isolated. He doesn't want his brothers to hate him. He wants them to, but doesn't work out, obviously, and he chases them down to Dotan. And in 37:20, you get the brothers say, "Oh ho ho," or 37:19. Bal hachalamot halazeba. Oh look, here comes the dreamer. V'ata lechu v'nahargehu. Let's kill him. V'nashlicheu b'charaborot, and throw him in the pit. V'amarnu chaya ra'a achalatu, and we'll say that a wild animal ate him. V'nir'eh ma yihiyu halomotav, and let's see what happens to his dreams. Now, this is just a great sentence because uh, we know that the dreams are going to come true. Any reader of the Torah knows that what's coming down the pike is that they will bow down to him when he's the vizier of Egypt, and we will see. But Rashi comments on a phrase from the Midrash that last clause, let's see what happens of his dreams. Rashi says is the Ruach HaKodesh, the Midrash says is Ruach HaKodesh, that is to say, God is commenting. But let's maybe read a teeny bit more secularly and just say that the voice of the Torah chimes in here and says, the brothers say, "Oh, let's kill him, let's throw him in the pit." And then the voice of the Torah says, "Well, let's see what's gonna happen to all his dreams,
Yeah.
because we know that they are gonna come true." And sometimes the brothers can try to interfere with providence, but
It's a very nice right. I have it right in front of me. So it says, "Nireh davar mi yakum, dvar mi yakum, o shelachem, o sheli." Let's see whose prophecy, whose thing is going to come true. His or yours, okay? Um, but okay, back to Nehargate. This is. this may be a silly question, but there's no such thing as a silly question. Do they really mean it? Do they? I mean, we're talking about killing here. We're not. Are we talking? We're not talking about murder. Murder is retzach. Not to put too fine a picayune reading on this, but do they just want to kind of get in a fight with them and kind of, oh, sorry, you died.
Well, I mean, Reuven,
Lo
let's be
nargin lo
glad
kanei nafsho, yeah.
let's be glad for Reuven for just a minute. Vayishma Reuven vayatzilehu miyadam. No, he says, no, 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 no. He saves them. Lo nakenu nafesh. Let's not kill somebody. I mean, the guy's a jerk, but I'm not
Right.
going to kill him.
Al
He goes,
tishbechu
Al
dam, he says
tishpachu
in
But
the
it's
dam.
Megillah.
also language that people use when something happens and says, I'm going to kill him. They don't always mean it. And, ultimately, as we know, they don't kill him. And I suspect that part of that is divine providence, but part of it also is a recognition that it's not what they really meant. They just want to get rid of him. And,
They want to torment him and torture him and throw him into a pit. If
not,
he goes,
I wouldn't quite go so far because what's interesting is that the boar, the pit, is going to show up again in the way that he describes being in prison.
right.
So the
He's
pit
also,
has many dimensions. And once he's in Egypt, he knows he doesn't belong in the pit. He might have thought, maybe I really did deserve this a little bit, the way I talked to my brothers. But when he gets to Egypt, he realizes that to borrow a phrase from a recent Nobel Prize laureate, he's a pawn in the game.
Are they mad?
He's being moved on God's chessboard.
Are they trying to demonstrate something to their father also? Look at the way they deal with their father. First of all, it says vayafshito et Yosef v'kutoto. They strip Joseph of the tunic. Okay, so that's a demonstration to the father. The father gave him this tunic, and they're going to strip him of it and tear it up. Okay, and then they put him in the pit. Um, and then when they are, revealing what happened to their father, they they send the tunic on before them, and they want Jacob to interpret from this that Joseph was torn up by a
Right.
wild
There's
animal.
an
So
element they think of kibbud of respect or respecting the father. They don't want to lie to him.
they
They're
don't.
not, they're going to allow him to draw the wrong conclusion, but he's going to do it.
well,
Right.
I think this is correct. Obviously, it's the difference between a lie and deceit. They give him a set of facts and expect him to draw the incorrect conclusion. But I do want to say that I think that they are planning on killing him because both Ruvain and Yehuda have to come up with a plan B. Like if they don't intervene, plan A is going to be that they kill him. So Ruvain says,
Throw him into the pit.
throw him into the pit, al tishpachu dam, hashlichu oto el habor. How's that? By the way, Barry's quite correct, of course, that it connotes or calls to mind the
Later
dungeon in
jail.
Egypt. But Joseph is also going to be buried in Shechem. So we get that's where Joseph's bones, when Moses and then Joshua bring them up. So there's also an echo, even though we're in Dotan and not quite in Shechem, there's an echo of Joseph being buried up in that region of the country. Um, so Reuben says, no, no, al tishpachu dam, no killing. Not interestingly enough, not no killing him. Um, uh, let's not do this b'moya denu with our own hands. And then they sit down for lunch, and they see the merchant caravan coming down, and then Judah goes. Judah, who's got a less elevated. Reuven says killing is bad. Judah's got a less elevated thing. Says ma betza ki na'aroget achinu. Well, how are we going to make any money out of that? Like that's pointless. So let's sell him and let's at least make some money out of this. And he's a real scheming guy because lechunim karenu leishmelim. Let's sell him. V'yadenu al tehivo ki achinu b'sarenu hu. he's our brother. He's our flesh.
You're reading that with sarcasm.
Come on, are you serious? He's your brother. He's your flesh. So let's sell him into slavery. I got a better idea here, guys.
So I want to ask this question. I was interested this year in the geography of this, and my little theory is that they go to Dotan in order to get on the trade route, right? They're in Shechem. The brothers leave Hebron. They go to Shechem, which is way north, several days journey, and they pasture around Shechem, and then they go to Dotan. Why do they go to Dotan? Dotan is on the trade route from east through the south, the Mesopotamian Egypt trade route. So my theory is that the brothers want to get in. They want to get into the game. They want to get into. They want to trade. And it
Early traders. Yeah.
and as you mentioned this, this will corroborate the theory, which is that here is Judah's making his first sale, his first stock purchase, his first acquisition or his first transaction happens to be um, you know the sale of his brother. I mean, it can't get much worse than that. You
Well,
know,
they say that, stock trading is not for the squeamish or the faint of heart.
indeed, indeed, indeed.
He's a
Okay.
day trader.
Yeah. Um, so Joseph goes down to Egypt. We obviously don't have time for the rest of the story, which of course is why we get so involved in this. This is part of the experience, which is to open up all the questions for this. Joseph gets so we have this little break, this little intergenim story of Judah and Tamar, which the more I read it, also raises these questions, tremendous questions about what is going on here? Why is the story here? What is the role of Judah and his three sons, Onan and Shelah? The death of two of those sons, the role of Tamar, the wife of Judah, who is the daughter of Shua, who dies in the story. Why does she die? She dies, we don't know, but she loses two of her own sons. So, that's she's bereft. And Judah is finding comfort and consolation with his daughter-in-law, Tamar, and
Unbeknownst to him.
unbeknownst to him. And it doesn't get more intricate than that. And that drives the story in a different direction. It gives us a certain character development about Judah and what will become. Any last thoughts here about this most amazing parsha as we want to conclude?
Well, I think what's striking to me is that Judah, at the end of the Judah Tamar story, admits that she was more righteous
Yeah.
or more right than he was.
Kami many.
There's
And
two ways to
he
read that. Yeah.
obviously was clearly wrong because he was going to execute an innocent person.
Yes.
There's two ways to read that in the the commentary literature and the midrash. Tzadka mimeni, she was more righteous than I was, or tzadka, period, she's right. Mimeni, she's pregnant from me.
Yeah.
That's- Barry, did you say this before we started recording? You had that great comment about the speech and the silence in the dreams. I
Ah,
think
yes. I want to go.
before.
Yeah.
So why don't
So
you close off with that?
Joseph has these dreams, of course, but he's not content to have the dreams. So he has to tell his brothers and his father what his dreams were. And in so doing, he's really committing a sin because they don't need to know the dreams. There's nothing that's they're going to learn from it that's going to help them in any way. And as the Torah makes clear, he infuriates them.
Yeah.
At the end of the Parsha, he solves the dreams, as it were, of the butler and the baker. And when he gives the butler his dream interpretation, he says, "Remember me to Pharaoh when you get out of here so that I can be released from prison."
Yeah.
And I think it's the last line of the Parsha, is that he forgot to do that.
Exactly.
And in a sense, Joseph here gets his comeuppance because at the beginning, he sins with speech, and at the end, he's punished by silence.
Very nice.
So the words don't help.
Very nice. With that, we will conclude. We want to thank our viewers, our listeners for watching. Jeremy, great to have you back here at the Parsha Talk.
most decidedly.
And we thank everyone for watching, praying for the rescue and the release of the hostages, and hope we all see each other next week on the next edition of Parsha Talk. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
Shalom.
Bye.